Part 1. The day he realized love could be divided. There are children who grow up believing love is automatic. And there are children who learn very early that love can be selective. James was 8 when he understood the difference. It didn't happen during a dramatic argument. There were no smashed plates or shouted confessions. It happened quietly. In small glances, in pauses, in who got hugged first. His mother, Claire, had always been expressive with Emma. She brushed her daughter's hair slowly, kissed her forehead longer, laughed louder at her jokes. With James, she was kind, but distracted, efficient, practical, and children notice patterns long before adults think they do. James began competing without realizing it. He brought home perfect spelling tests. He cleaned his room without being asked. He waited for her approval like a verdict. Sometimes he got it, but it never felt the same. Then came the night everything shifted. Claire and Robert sat at the kitchen table long after the children were supposed to be asleep. James stood in the hallway listening. He didn't understand all the words. Unhappy, distance, someone else. But he understood tone. His father's voice was low and strained. His mother's voice was calm. Too calm. The next week, Claire announced they were separating. What she said next would define James's entire future. "Emma will stay with me," she said. "James, you'll go with Dad. It'll be good for you. A fresh start." A fresh start. As if he were a project being relocated. Robert had accepted a position overseas months earlier. The move had been discussed privately. Now, it became permanent. James watched his sister run into their mother's arms, crying. No one asked him what he wanted, and that was the first moment he felt it. Not anger, not even sadness. Replacement. The departure was fast. Boxes, papers, tickets, explanations delivered like formal announcements. On the morning of the flight, Claire hugged him, but it was a quick hug. Emma cried harder, and even at 8 years old, James noticed that his mother wiped Emma's tears first. That detail would replay in his memory for decades. On the plane, Robert tried to be strong. He promised adventures, a new country, new opportunities. But James stared out the window and made a quiet decision. If love could be divided, he would never again depend on it fully. And that decision, made silently at 30,000 feet, would shape the rest of his life. Part 2. The New Country and the Hidden Truths. The new country was louder, faster, colder. Robert worked long hours. He insisted it was for them. He said sacrifice now would mean stability later. But James didn't need stability. He needed someone to look at him the way his mother looked at Emma. Loneliness crept in quietly. It wasn't dramatic. It was cumulative. School was difficult at first. New language, new customs. James adapted quickly, almost too quickly. Teachers praised his maturity. What they didn't see was that maturity born from abandonment isn't healthy. It's defensive. At 10 years old, James already knew not to ask for too much. Then one evening, he heard laughter in the kitchen. A woman's laughter. Robert introduced her as a friend. Her name was Sophia. She was kind, warm. She tried to connect, but James felt something twist inside him. Another replacement. He didn't confront his father. He didn't complain. He withdrew. Meanwhile, letters from Claire arrived inconsistently. She wrote about Emma's dance recitals, Emma's new school awards, Emma's personality. James's updates were summarized in 1 or 2 sentences. "Hope you're adjusting well." He read those words over and over. Adjusting. As if abandonment were a relocation inconvenience. Then one summer, he visited his mother. And that was when he saw it clearly. Claire had someone new too. A man named Daniel. Charming, confident, comfortable in the house that once felt like James's home. Emma adored him. James noticed something else. Daniel paid attention to Emma the way Claire did, with intensity, with preference. The pattern wasn't imagination, it was structure. 2 parents, 2 lovers, 1 daughter who fit into the picture, and 1 son who didn't. That summer, James stopped trying. Part 3. The boy who learned not to need. By 13, James had perfected emotional minimalism. He achieved academically, but not for praise. He avoided deep friendships. He learned humor as deflection, intelligence as armor. Inside, the question repeated, why wasn't I chosen? He watched other boys complain about strict mothers or distant fathers. He said nothing. They didn't understand what selective love felt like. At 15, he had his first girlfriend. He ended it abruptly after 2 months. Not because she did anything wrong, but because she started caring too much. And care felt dangerous. He feared dependence more than loneliness. Robert married Sophia quietly. Claire continued her life with Daniel. Emma thrived in every environment, adored by adults, confident, socially magnetic. Family reunions were polite performances. James observed everything. The way his mother's eyes still softened for Emma first. The way his father praised him in measurable achievements but struggled with affection. The way both parents avoided acknowledging the imbalance. And here was the most damaging part. No one ever apologized. Not directly, not clearly, not for the choice. So James internalized a message. If no one admits harm, maybe the harm isn't real. Which meant maybe he was the problem. That thought followed him into adulthood like a shadow. Part 4. The man he became. By 30, James was successful, financially stable, intelligent, controlled. People described him as calm and reliable. They didn't see the hyper-independence, the inability to ask for help, the quiet fear that anyone could leave if someone better came along. He dated selectively, loved cautiously, withdrew preemptively. Then one day, he was invited to a family celebration. Both parents, Emma, partners, extended relatives. He stood in the room watching the dynamics replay like an old script. Emma told a story. Claire laughed first. Robert complimented James's career, measurable, safe. Daniel shook his hand with distant politeness. And something inside James shifted. Not rage, clarity. He understood something powerful in that moment. His parents hadn't meant to destroy him. They were selfish, human, distracted by their own desires and new relationships. But children don't experience selfishness as complexity. They experience it as rejection. That night, he spoke. Not angrily, not dramatically. He simply described what it felt like to be the child who wasn't chosen. The silence that followed was different from past silences. It was recognition. His mother cried, not defensively, but genuinely. His father looked older than he ever had. Emma looked stunned. For the first time, the story was not about logistics. It was about impact, and impact lasts longer than intention. James left that evening lighter, not because the past changed, but because he understood it. He made a final decision. He would not repeat the pattern. If he ever had children, none of them would compete for his affection. None of them would question whether they were chosen, because he knew exactly what that uncertainty does to a developing heart. If this story moved you, subscribe for more psychological mini-movie dramas. And tell me in the comments, do you think favoritism in childhood shapes who we become, or can we fully escape it?